Okay, Assalamualaikum and very good morning to all of the students. So as for today, I would like to share with you the lectures on the sensitivity in real estate development appraisal. So apart from this topic, we have already learned from previous week in regards to the cash flow approach in development appraisal, whereas we are going to use several methods. And then apart from conducting development appraisals in determining the viability and profitability of the developer's profit, we are also going to analyze and delve into the sensitivity and risk analysis. So the importance of sensitivity and risk analysis in real estate development is to predict the outcomes or the future outcome for a certain development project. For instance, the sensitivity analysis is used to determine the changes between one factors to another. For example, let's say if we want to look into the cost increase in building construction costs. So what is the impact towards our developer's profit? Because some of these the figures can also become quite substantial, whereas the increase of $1 in cost will reduce or make our profit loss about 1 million, for example. So that's why we need to identify which factors that are very significant and sensitive that can influence our developer's profit. Okay, now let us look into the slide. So I will provide the slide in Google Classroom. So as for today, I will try to give you an introduction about the sensitivity analysis and also how can we apply the sensitivity analysis in the calculation of real estate development appraisal. So the aims of today's lecture is to ensure that the student understand the concept of sensitivity analysis. Second one, the student should be able to calculate the sensitivity index and interpret the results, because sensitivity analysis employ the performance measurement such as the sensitivity index. So this index will tell us whether the profit are sensitive to cost or whether the profit is sensitive to any changes in sales price, for instance. And also the results can be read from in the context of index. So closer to 1 or probably far from 1.0 and etc. So after this, we will look into the results, interpretation of the results. Okay, C is comprehend the importance of sensitivity analysis in property or real estate development appraisal. So we need to look into the usage of sensitivity analysis and what can it serve in our calculation. Okay, first thing first, let us look into the introduction of sensitivity analysis. So this analysis has been introduced by David B. Hertz in 1964. So what is the definition of sensitivity analysis? So if you look into the slide, it shows that the SA or sensitivity analysis is the variation of variables. So we need to determine or we need to identify the variation of variables due to a change in another variable. So for instance, let's say if our cost increased by $1 or 1 ringgit. So what happened to our profit? Either it will increase or decrease. So logically, our profit will reduce. The amount will reduce. So in this context, we can also look into the relationship between variables. We have positive relationship, meaning if one variable increase, another one will follow suit or will increase. Okay, the second one is the negative relationship, whereas if one variable increase, the other variable will decrease. In the context of the cost and profit, it is considered as the negative relationship. variables. So this is the analysis that we are applying to look into the changes. So what happened if one increase, and also its relationship with another variables. Okay, for example, whether the value of a property is sensitive to its rental. So in this context, we can see that there are relationship between rental and value. So by applying sensitivity analysis, we are trying to look into the changes of rental, whether value of property is sensitive to the changes in rental. So therefore, we need to be very careful if the value is sensitive to rental, because let's say if we purposely or impurposely put error figures, instead of 1 ringgit, instead of rental of 100 per square feet, we put rental 50 ringgit per square feet per month. So in this context, slight mistake will lead to error in property value, because we are going to lose out in the value of the property since our income is lesser than what it's supposed to be. Okay, now let us look into another example. This is a very basic example whereby I'm using the cake. Before we bake our cake, so we need to prepare for the ingredients. Okay, let us look into the ingredients itself. For eggs, half cup cocoa powder, 2 cups gluten free. So in the context of sensitivity analysis, first thing first, you need to identify which one is the independent variables and which one is the dependent variables. So in this context, the cake ingredients is the independent variables. Apart from that, our end product or the cake is considered as the dependent variable. So in sensitivity analysis, what we are trying to look is the relationship between independent variables and dependent variables. Either dependent variable is sensitive to any changes in independent variables. Okay. Let's say if we want to cook a delicious cake, so you need to have a proper or the accurate amount of ingredients for eggs. So let's say if our ingredients is lacking, instead of 4 eggs, we only put 2 eggs, or maybe we put a very little cup of cocoa powder. So what happened to our end product or cake is that probably our cake, it will not become cake, or maybe the taste is not as delicious as it's supposed to be. So in this context, what you are looking at is the relationship between ingredients and the cake. Okay, next. So you look into the application in development. Okay, in this example, this is the sensitivity analysis graph. So the highest bar shows the most sensitive variables to profit change. So in this example, let's say the variables are increasing by 10%. So in sensitivity analysis, it will look into the profit changes if the variables such as finance rate, land costs, building costs are increasing by 10%. So the highest or the longest bar is the most significant variable in influencing the sensitivity of the profit. Okay, now let us look into the topic 2.0, how to calculate sensitivity index. So as a matter of fact, the principles of sensitivity analysis involve the measurements of percentage change in one variable and another variables. For example, if we want to decide whether the value is sensitive to rental, so normally we will try to compare the percentage change in value and rentals. If the percentage change in value is less than the percentage change in rental, value is not sensitive to rental and vice versa. So apart from that, we have the calculation that we need to apply within this topic. So the formula to calculate sensitivity index, we need to take into the consideration of the percentage change in variable A divided by percentage change in variable B. If you want to estimate the percentage change in variable A, you have to follow this formula. Percentage change in variable A equals to A base minus A divided by A base times 100. Similarly, percentage change in variable B equals to B base minus B divided by B base times 100. And then you have to divide between percentage change in variable A and percentage change in variable B. Okay, next, this is the sensitivity scale. If you want to determine whether the profit is sensitive to other types of variables, so you look into the SI index scale, sensitivity index scale. They say if your results of SI falls within the region of 0 to 1 or 0 to -1, we consider as the relationship is not sensitive. For example, profit is not sensitive to site preparation if the SI falls within 0 to 1 or 0 to -1. If the SI occurred more than 1 or more than -1, we can interpret the results as sensitive, whereby the profit is sensitive to building construction costs or profit is sensitive to changes in sales price, for instance. So the difference between the positive and negative is in terms of the relationship. As what I've mentioned before, negative relationship occurred when one variable increase, another one will decrease. Or the positive relationship occurred when one variable increase, another will also increase. So this is the reading of relationship. How to calculate the sensitivity index? So you have to have a complete sets of residual calculation where everything is perfect. The formula is there, and then you are linking it with one another within the cells. So in this slide, I will provide with you the example 1 and example 2, with changes in developer's profit and changes in two-story terrace price. Okay, now refer to the Excel file given. So in this, I will try to demonstrate the example. First example, when we use the sensitivity analysis in investment method, the types of property is the apartment. So in this calculation, we are trying to estimate the market value of apartment using investment method. Okay, given all the information that we need to estimate the market value. So gross rental per annum, less outgoing of 20%. Then we will get the net rental per annum of 6,240. Okay, next we'll multiply with YP to perp at 6% since the property is freehold. Then we'll get the market value of 104,000. So these are the original account or the original calculation. Okay, next, the next step in sensitivity analysis is that we need to identify variables involved. In this context, we can identify that there are about 3 independent variables and 1 dependent variable, which is the market value of subject property. Okay, the independent variables consist of gross rental, outgoings, and rate of return. Okay, now the next step would be to conduct the sensitivity analysis. Once you have identified the variable, you have to do the what we call it as the throughput method, whereas you change the amount in the calculation. Okay, let's say our base or original calculation is this one. So you just put it. Okay, first you need to identify whether market value is sensitive to gross rental. You need to do a very simple table like this one. And next you take the original calculation. So our full rental value is 650 per month. Let's put here, or maybe we put it here, 650. And then if our figures is 650, our gross rental is 650, we are able to get market value or dependent variables of 100, 4,000. Now, the use of sensitivity analysis use the percentage change or the determination of variation between one variables to another. What is meant by that is that we need to change the independent variables to look into the changes in dependent variable. Okay, the changes can be done in any figures. For example, let's say if we want to reduce the gross rental of 10 ringgit per month. So you just put here 640 ringgit per month. Then you change in the base of our calculation 640 per month. You will get a reduced market value of 102,400. Let's say if we want to increase the gross rental, so you increase it in by 10 ringgit, 660, and you change here 66. As far as concerned, we will get the market value of 105,600. Okay, now how do we calculate the sensitivity index? Okay, first thing first, you have to decide or determine the base value. So in this context, I will point 650 as our base value. So meaning this one will be the B base and this one will be the A base. Okay, in reference to the formula stated that the SI equals to percentage change in variable A or percentage change divided by percentage change in variable B. So first thing, you have to calculate the percentage change in variable A. So we have the variable A base and then variable A divided by variable A base. Okay, variable A is any amount that you want to. You can also choose either top amount or the bottom amount. Okay, in this context, let us choose the top amount, 640 and 100, 2,400. So first, you have to calculate the percentage change in variable A. Okay, variable A is dependent variable. So percentage change in variable A equals to A base minus A divided by A base. Then you enter. So the result suggests an amount of 0.0154. Okay, next is percentage change in variable E. Similarly, you calculate in reference to the formula. 650 B base minus B divided by base. And you close the bracket. Enter. You will get the same answer 0.015. So SI equals to, you refer back to your formula, you can see that the SI is percentage change in variable A divided by percentage change in variable B. So Z equals to percentage change in variable A divided by percentage change in variable B. So your SI is 1. 1. If we compare to the scales of sensitivity, so 1 equals to not sensitive. We can say that the rental value is not sensitive, or the value of the market value of the property is not sensitive to rental. These are the one of the example that we can use the SI or sensitivity analysis in investment method. Okay, next I'm trying to demonstrate the application of sensitivity analysis in residual calculation. Okay, using the sample of residual calculation, first thing first, you need to have a very complete calculation, whereas everything is linked together and each of the calculation are formulated using formula. So in this example, we have the GDV of 88 million and TTC of 48. And last but not least, our developer's profit incurred a return of 13.8 million, approximately 13.8 million. And then the analysis on the viability of the proposed project obtain a reasonable amount of viability, 15.65, and TDC of 18.56. This one is not viable because it is lower than the acceptable range of 20, but for the purpose of this exercise, I'm going to use this calculation. Okay, now look, first you have to, the next thing after you have completed your calculation is that you need to determine or identify the variables and dependent variables and independent variables. So in this context, we are trying to look into either the profit is sensitive to any of these items in development such as sales or the cost. Okay, and then once you have identified the variables, independent variables related to the dependent variables, so you have to conduct the sensitivity analysis using Excel. Okay, these are the example. Okay, first, let us look into the first example. If we want to determine whether selling price or the developer's profit is sensitive to the changes in selling price. Okay, first you have to create a table like this one. Price is B, developer's profit or variable, dependent variable is A, then SI. Okay, let me delete first. Try to do the calculation. Okay, the first one is the sales price, 850. So 4-story terrace shop house is stated at 850,000 per unit. So what happened if we change the price to our profit? Okay, our base value is 850. So you just take this one, take the amount and put it inside the table, 850,000. Using 850,000 price, we will be able to obtain 13,781,642. 13,781,642. 642. So this will be our base in terms of price for developers profit. Okay, and then you have to do, or probably we increase the price into 10,000. So we just assume the increment of 10,000. So our price will be 860K. And you click enter. So what happened is that our developers will profit will increase into 14.2 million. And take this figure, 14,248, 248, 943, 943. And then you can conduct the sensitivity index. It is still adequate if you only have two sets of figures in here, because the answer will still be the same if you calculate for the SI. Okay, and then you calculate the SI using the formula. So first you have to search for the percentage change in variable A and percentage change in variable B. Percentage change in variable A refers to the A base minus A divided by A base. We'll get negative 0.034. Okay, net percentage change in variable B. I'll just put the calculation here to demonstrate to all of you. Equals to B base minus B divided by B base. Enter. For your SI is percentage change in variable A divided by percentage change in variable B, 2.882. So this is the A, percentage change in A. This one is percentage change in B. As far as concerned, if you compare with the scales, the sensitivity index scales, you can see that 2.8 is or falls in the range of sensitive measures. 2.88 positive, 2.88 is considered as sensitive. So what can we infer from this result is that the profit is sensitive to selling price of terrace house, since we obtain the SI of positive 2.882. Similarly, let's say if I want to estimate the construction costs. So first, we take the base 60, but don't forget to change your figures into the original calculation for the sales price 850. Let us change or search for the sensitivity between profit and construction costs of terrace house. So I have done the calculation. In this context or example, I reduce the price into 55 to $5, $5 differences, and then the profit is increasing. So this shows that the relationship between cost and profit is negative. One increase, the other one will decrease. Or let's say if the other one is decreasing, the other variables will increase. So negative relationship. So based on the calculation of SI, I managed to get the negative 0.986 for SI. If we look into the scales of sensitivity, negative 0.9 falls in the range of not sensitive. We can say that this variable of construction cost is not sensitive. Profit is not sensitive to construction cost of terrace house. And then you can also conduct the SI sensitivity analysis to determine the SI for other variables such as construction cost, shop house, land costs, site clearance, and earthwork. Okay, after you estimate the SI for most of the variables, then you can summarize it in the table from the rank, using rank from most sensitive to less sensitive. So according to the example or the calculation that has been provided within the Excel, I managed to rank the most sensitive is the land cost. So we can see that the profit is sensitive to land costs. So any increase in land cost will reduce our profit substantially. And then the second one is selling price, construction cost, the third one until the site clearance and earthwork. So based on the results, you can also create a graph. Okay, for example, you highlight this one, and then you go into insert, okay, chart. You click at the recommended chart. You can choose the all chart so normally for sensitivity analysis, we use the bar chart. Okay, okay, this one. So as you can see, the highest or the most sensitive variables is the land cost, the blue color one, and the selling price is the second one. So using the chart, we can see clearly which variable is sensitive. Mostly will influence the developer's profit, or the one that will least influence the developer's profit. So based on the example that have been given, we can say that in residual, value of profit is determined by many variables such as selling price and cost. So prior to the analysis of SA or sensitivity analysis, we might not have general ideas or specific ideas in regards to the magnitude of changes or the significance of this variable in influencing the profit. So let's say if we able to pinpoint the most sensitive variables, for example, land cost. So we need to make a very good analysis or accurate judgment on the figures itself. So we cannot simply make a likely consideration on the land costs. That's why you need to make a more detailed and thorough analysis to get the most accurate value for the land price or the land cost. Okay, it is important in residual valuation, valuer test for the sensitivity of the site value or profit to other variables. So we need to determine the sensitivity in order for us to predict the outcomes of our profit in the future. So in conclusion, what we can say about sensitivity analysis is that it is one of the very beneficial methods apart from the cash flow and residual in order for us to determine the most sensitive variables, because if we make any mistake in determining the figures of development, it may jeopardize or it may increase our risk of losing in terms of the developer's profit. So if the variable is sensitive, one must make sure the data is accurate as possible to reduce the systematic error. So sensitivity analysis is a tool that best used to detect sensitivity while other variables remain constant. So these are the usage of sensitivity analysis. So with that, I will end this lecture. Thank you for listening and taking your time. See you next week.